Namaskar viewers. Welcome to another episode of Infinite Possibilities with Pradeep Gupta, brought to you by Mana TV International. Today we will be talking about a very misunderstood concept called leadership. You see, most of us, when we talk about leadership, we think of it as the ability to guide and direct a group of people towards a certain destination or a goal. We associate leadership with authority, control, power, and maybe followers. We think of leadership where there is a group of people who are led by someone who is known as their leader. But is this what leadership really is? Today, we'll talk about what it really means to be a leader and how one should lead. But before we begin, I want to start off by telling our viewers that we just want to offer different outlooks, resulting in possible new beginnings. So please listen with an open mind. And now, friends, let's welcome the man who is going to lead us forward. Victor, welcome once again to Infinite Possibilities.
Yeah, now it feels like home just being at infinite possibilities, Pradeep.
It
And,
is your home, Victor.
and thank you so much for the way you set up this whole conversation on leadership. So, yeah, Pradeep, thank you very much.
So, Victor, we are really excited and we cannot really wait to hear your views on what is leadership. What does it mean to be a leader? How does one go about leading? I think it's a very misunderstood concept that, like I said. So, please shed some light on this concept.
See, Pradeep, when we look at, I wouldn't say it is just a misunderstood concept, but I think that leadership itself has been so discussed at different forms. And we understand leadership in different forms, is about that one person taking responsibility for a large number of people. I would say, plainly put, one person being responsible for more than one people. And I think that is what we'll understand leadership as. But I just want to take that out and say, whether you have teams, whether you have people, whether you have a position of authority, or you have a position of control, as you had said, Pradeep, I want to say let us distinguish a way of leadership, which means if I were to say, I want to understand, can I be a leader with my own life? Can I live life as the life of a leader? What it takes to be the life of a leader? How does one live that? And that question, if I were to ask, then I would say, Pradeep, that let us say, if we look at it and say, what is the way of being of a leader? Like when there is a leader, what is the way of being? Or, and another thing is, what is the language that leaders use? What is the language that leaders use? And what is the intention from which a leader could operate? And if I were to look at these three and were to look at leaders who really made a positive impact or a productive impact on society, then I would look at these three, irrespective of where you are. You know, whether you are with people, without people, self, I think these three could be parameters, or rather the elements of what it is to be a leader.
So, Victor, I'm sure a lot of people understand what you mean by language. Maybe not exactly what your outlook on language is, but at least people know what language is. And same thing with intention. But I'm sure, myself included, I'm not clear. What do you mean by ways of being?
Ways of being is great that you asked me, Pradeep, because I would have gone forward and said ways of being, and people would have probably wondered what is this way of being. It is fundamentally essential. It is for a human being. What is so true to oneself is how you're being. Like, for example, I may be crying, but my way of being is happiness because I'm crying of joy. But I may be crying and my way of being is sadness. I may be crying and my way of being is sorrow and grief. So the way of being is a very internal experience with it. And it is something that is felt between two human beings. Uh, but it is not worded, but it is felt between two human beings as an experience. Like at this point of time, my way of being could be one of, as I'm talking to you in this moment, the way of being is one of peace or anxiety. And that way of being is anxiety. Because the way of being would transfer, or a way of being is peace. And as if I am peace, then you will also experience peace. What we feel and experience between two human beings is what we could call as ways of being, or two living beings itself is ways of being. I
Okay.
would extend that and say, like imagine you were to talk with your pet. I'm sure it doesn't get the English language or any native language, but it gets the way of being. That's communication. Communication between living beings gets, or you speak to a tree with a lot of affection and it grows. Scientific science has proved that the way you treat the plants around you, they grow. But means they experience ways of being. And I think ways of being is quite underrated in understanding human beings. There is some science which talks on ontology. Ontology talks, and this is one of my favorite things in understanding way of being, Pradeep. And yeah, have I kind of communicated? Have I clarified?
Yes, I think I get an idea now. Thanks for explaining that.
You think that that will help? But thanks, Pradeep, for pointing that out. Otherwise, I don't know. I might have gone in some direction. Thank you so much, Pradeep. Like always, you bring that direction back.
You have to treat me like the lowest common denominator. If I understand, everybody will understand.
Yeah. I think you make sure about that. Uh, and now, when I look at these three things, having now put in and said these are the three elements that you want to work with, and these are the three elements we will keep looking at. Uh, Now, what happens is, I ask myself, what is the way of being of a leader? What is one consistent way? There are many things. The leader could be expressing many things, could be experiencing many things, and I will not get into that. But one way of being, which I think demonstrates what's a leader, is service and empathy. And the way of being of service, someone who is of service to others, to who enjoys being of service and can empathize with the other, I think that is the ground of being a leader. I mean, the way of being of a leader could be service and empathy. That is one thing that I see, Pradeep. Then the second thing I would say, when I come to the language, when I'm saying language, I am not saying the kind of words that you use or the grammar that you use. But now, in that being of service and empathy, the language of request and acknowledgement. A language of request and acknowledgement where the words make the other person feel that I'm acknowledging someone and I'm making a request. Now, let me put these two together. And is it okay, Pradeep, if I can put some example and give it?
Absolutely. In fact, I was going to ask you if you can explain it with an example. And would it be okay if I just write it on like a whiteboard for our viewers?
Oh, yeah, that would be interesting, Pradeep. If that can kind of help, is just to see.
So put something here. So you said there are three constituents, right? Ways of being, and then you said language,
right,
and then intention.
Correct, exactly.
And if I may say so, ways of being, you said that of service and empathy. And then the language you said would be request and acknowledgement.
Right. Now, just look at this. Now, let us say I have something, a leader I'm saying, I talk to a junior of mine and I tell that person, and what I want is, I want that person to submit a document to me by the evening so that I can send the report at the end of the day. Now I would say, call him and I tell him, let us say if I say John or Josh, I just want to make sure that you complete this by the evening at the second half of the day, because toward the end of the day, I need to send a report. So you please complete a document and just give it to me because I need to send a report by this evening. Now, this is an instruction and information conversation. Now, there's a language of instruction on what that guy has to do, and information on why I need it, and the guy gets it. Now, let me shift this to a language of request and acknowledgement. And I said, Josh, it's been great working with you. Uh, Josh, 1 minute. I just want to acknowledge you for being here and thank you for whatever this report that you sent me yesterday and the one that you sent me in the morning. I need another document. Is it possible? Now, the thing is, the moment I ask a question, I have made a request and I have asked him, is it possible? Now, that person is making a choice. Is it possible? And an inquiry has been placed. And then Josh says, yeah, tell me what is the document. And I said, this is it, Josh. If it could be similar to how you sent me, then I could attach it in the report and that make the report complete. I'm sorry, I probably forgot to tell you that this will also be required in the report. But now it just came to me. So is it, or will it be too much of a bother? Now, the thing that I'm asking him is I'm preparing him to, that is a request I'm making and I acknowledge you for what you're doing. Now, when a person is acknowledged and then a request is placed, the person has a choice to reply to you. Now you're ready to accept that choice. And now suppose you were to say no, then I can be of service. And then I said, my way of being. Now imagine he said no. Yes, everything goes fine. He says no. And I say, yeah, is there too much of work? I mean, is it something that I have, like, am I something unaware of this? I'm sorry, Josh, I'm just putting a lot of load on you. But is it anyway? Tell me what I can do so that we can do it. We need to do it by the evening. So what can I do to make this possible for you? Is there anything that I can do? And probably says, if you can get the content typed out by somebody, I can align it to report format. And I say, okay, thanks. I'll kind of make that happen for you so that you can go ahead and don't disturb yourself. Relax. Thank you very much for what you've done, but relax. Now, the thing is, I am having some way of empathizing with this present situation and not saying, this is corporate culture, you get your work done. If you don't get your work done, go fly a kite. That's not the approach. The approach is to say, okay, I made a request and acknowledgement. Doesn't mean you have to say yes. And if you say no, what can I do? And if you say yes, but the way of being is that service and empathy. Why? Because at the end of it, I want that person to be empowered in an interaction with me. Then I distinguish myself as a leader. But if this intention to empower is not there, the way of being of service and empathy is not fully present, and the request and acknowledgement looks more like a change of words, but actually it's an instruction or an information because it doesn't come from the heart. And that's what I was saying, or putting this and saying, if this kind of happens in everyday conversation, just imagine, it may be difficult, but I have noticed this changing. Probably in my interaction with my son itself, I'm saying, now I want to know whether he's going to be in school, he's going to be in class tomorrow, and his online class starts at 8 a.m. So I just want to make sure that he's there. But as a father, the first thing that I would like to ask my son is, I hope you're going to the class tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Will you get up? Right? So, but imagine I ask him, what time is the class tomorrow? Okay, great. So today's class, I hope you've done, and it's great. I saw that what you did. I want to acknowledge you for now being regular in the class. Tomorrow's class, how are you planning that? He said, could you please wake me up at 7 o'clock? Okay, I'll wake you up at 7 o'clock so that we can be ready. Is there anything else I need? Yeah. Then I'll tell him, Benjamin, I think then you should go to sleep early because you're already looking tired, and then don't do this. Because if you spend this time with me, you'll get up, sleep late, and tomorrow will impact you. So I think don't do. Today's don't do. I know I scheduled this, but I think this will delay and compromise your sleep. Now the thing is, I'm being concerned about that. I'm not using an authority, which is the default nature, but even in a conversation like that, not even in corporates or not even in business, in way of life that is possible, because now that person is empowered to make choices. Leadership is where your team, your people around you have choices while they're engaging. And that is the power of creating choice for people around.
I'm very intrigued by this, Victor, because in my role, I am also in a leadership role in a corporate job. And you might have seen more and more corporates are actually moving towards what is known as a projectized environment where people work on a certain project. So they come from all over the place, from different groups, different cost centers, like people from business side, computer side, network side, all kind of different people come together, form a team, complete a project, and then the team is dispersed and they all go their own ways and do something else. And in that, I'm in one of those leadership roles where I have to lead a team of people from different places. Now, this team comes from different places. They don't necessarily report to each other. So nobody has any authority on the other person also. I mean, in your example, you said somebody is junior to you or he reports to you. In my scenario, people don't even report to each other, but we all have to work together. And in my capacity as a leader, I have to make sure that everything gets done. So this is a great example that you put together, like how I can actually, my way of being could be that of service. So editors, I'm going to start this part again. Please pay attention to when you put it together with the previous recording. So Victor, somebody like me who is in this corporate leadership role can really benefit from what you just said, because there is a new term that we hear a lot in the corporate management, and that is the role of a manager as a leader and as a servant leader. Actually, that's what people like me are now called, servant leaders. And I think that probably comes from your ways of being, or that of service. So leader as the person who provides service. And also you talked about acknowledgement. I think anybody would feel like appreciated and recognized, when you acknowledge what they are doing. And then anything you request, the chances of you getting that request completed are much better than, a person who doesn't feel like recognized or acknowledged for their effort. This is actually beautiful. I want to spend a little more time on the intention of empowerment, if you may explain that a little bit with an example.
See, the thing is, when you're a leader now, you're going to be dealing with a lot of problems of others as a leader. Many times they may not be having solutions, and most often people find the solution for themselves. But the intention is that whatever the person has come and met me, when he returns back, is more empowered than where he was. The intention is that I'm going to leave this person after 15-minute interaction, 20-minute interaction, or a 30-minute meeting, or a 2-hour-long meeting, or just a 5-minute interaction. I'm just going to leave that person more empowered than wherever he is. This is my intention. Then I'm being a leader, because then I'm listening to how I want to leave this person empowered at the end of this conversation. When this conversation complete, that person feels more empowered than where he was when the conversation started. I mean, that is what I mean by the intention, empowerment.
That, I think that's a brilliant distinction between a manager and a leader, because I have seen people who are in the role of managers and they do not feel like empowering their employees. They want to keep the information to themselves, whereas a leader would not do that. The leader would empower. That should be the intention. And that, I think, is a great distinction. I think this was a great conversation, Victor. Especially for me, I think it was a great eye-opener. The three aspects of leadership that we talked about, the ways of being, the language, and the intention. It can turn any ordinary leader into like a real leader who gets things done, and at the same time leaves his team, his group of people that are following him, leaves them empowered, acknowledged. And if we can bring these three aspects in our life, think about what others want, feel the pain with empathy, enjoy acknowledging other people, respecting them, we can become a true leader. So simple and so profound at the same time. Victor, thank you once again for giving us this tool to transform a person into a true leader who can inspire people to do great things. And as always, once that happens, all we have is infinite possibilities.
I think that was very beautifully put, Pradeep. Thank you so much.
Great, Victor. Thank you so much. And friends, I hope you enjoyed today's episode on leadership. I want you to write to us in the comments below and share your feelings, thoughts, feedback, the experience of listening to this conversation, and if you apply it, how it made a difference in your life. Please let us know if you have any questions that you'd like us to address. We look forward to hearing from you. And Victor, as always, thank you for joining. It was great having you and listening to your unique perspectives. Thank you so much. And thank you for watching, everybody. We look forward to having you again with us next week with yet another thought-provoking subject on infinite possibilities with Pradeep Gupta, brought to you only by Mana TV International. Have a wonderful time. Namaste.